What are some of the top 20 questions to expect as a Scrum Master in your next interview? Most importantly, how should you be responding to this question? What should be your mode of communication, or how should you place your words? One of the things I have noticed with helping to prepare Scrum Masters for interviews is the fact that they understand the concept, but sometimes the way to put it is what kind of limit them from easily closing that position. So today we're going to go through top 20 questions you should expect or top frequently asked question in a Scrum Master interview. We're going to look at it from a three-dimensional point of view so that this can help you close that gap in your next interview. All right, if you're new here, please click the subscribe button. Welcome to the Scrum Chat Room with Dr. Francis Mbunya. It is time for us to learn in a very simple, straightforward way. One of the goals of this channel is to provide you with very simplified information about Scrum, the reality on what you expect out there. So if we're going through these top 20 questions and you realize that, oh, you know what? I can't answer up to 10 of this question correctly, then you need to do what? You need to sign in for coaching. Okay, perfect. Now let's get started. Now, the question most often you will not escape, even if it's not asked directly to you, it's going to be asked in one way or the other. Is a question, tell me about yourself, right? Tell me about yourself. Alternatively, this question, it also saying that why do you think you qualify to work with us as a Scrum Master, or why should we hire you? Now, this question is all encompassing. There's no one way to answer. Tell me about yourself, but then you should master yourself in such a way that you make it conversational. A couple of things which are very important if you're creating your tell me about yourself, which is an elevator speech, is number one, give a snapshot. I always talk about three components. Give a snapshot of your overall experience. Number two, give a snapshot of your transition. And number three, give a snapshot of your overall project you've worked on. All right. So you tell me about yourself should be something like this. Hello, my name is Francis Mbunya. I have about 16 years plus work experience carrying across project management, program management, and the IT. Proud to becoming a Scrum Master. I used to work in a project that was to identify consumption and production pattern across different countries. And the project was trying to integrate technology into the process on how we could be able to use an app and look at what is happening across different countries and being able to pick from there. And being one of the leaders of that project, it was kind of really challenging to collaborate with all the different people and representatives that were in different countries. So my project decided to adopt Agile project management, which is what kind of introduced me into the field of Scrum. And when that project ended, I transitioned into a full-time role as a Scrum Master, right? Now, in my first project as a Scrum Master, I was helping the company build a centralized system that could help them coordinate data from about 300 different clients. And then after that, I've worked with several different teams. In my most recent project, I work with a team. My most recent project, I work in a safe environment, and I'm part of an app with 11 teams, right? And that app is building an integrated application that can help that is implementing a sensor solution for multiple clients and big clients, including Nike, Uber, and all of that. Now the project is ending. That is why I'm in the market for another opportunity. Okay. Now it sounds a bit complicated, right? Because I master what I'm saying. Okay. But then what I want you to get from this question is that you did not hear me say, oh, my name is Francis. I'm a Scrum Master. I facilitate event and remove impediment. None of that future. Remember, your value as a Scrum Master is to help the company deliver business value. So if you integrate these three components, number one, give an overall of your experience. Number two, give your transition story. Number three, talk about one or two projects you've worked with, and then tell them that, okay, you're wrapping up with the project. That's why you're in the market for another new opportunity. Then you will be in the right spot. All right. In some of the interviews, they will even ask you, look, you know what? Apart from facilitating events and removing impediment, what else do you do as a Scrum Master? Because they're pushing you to be very specific. All right. Question number 2, why should we hire you as a Scrum Master? This question is also very interesting. It's an interesting question. And what they're trying is like, do you actually understand what you should be doing as a Scrum Master? Because many Scrum Masters do not understand what they should do. And when they get to work, they ask the manager, oh, what do you think I should do? And the manager say, do A, do B, and say, oh, in my environment, I'm not a Scrum Master. They're asking me to do so many stuff. It's because you don't understand your role. Remember, as a Scrum Master, you're a coach. You're the one guiding the team. So why should we hire you as a Scrum Master? It's a very straightforward question. All right. This is one of the reasons why you hire me as a Scrum Master. As a Scrum Master, my main goal is to help the team deliver business value. Now, is the project and the product you're working on is very important, and you want to get it timely to the client, have the ability to work with the team and to facilitate communication and collaboration, leveraging agile practices to make sure that you will deliver right on time. Okay, perfect. So now, one thing again, you did not hear me say, oh, I'm a good facilitator, have better communication skills. No, I focus on the core goal of a Scrum Master, help to deliver business value. Question number 3, in your opinion, what is a successful Scrum Master? In your opinion, what is a successful Scrum Master? Now, most often when you're in an interview, your goal should not just be, oh, thank you for that question, and then you move straight to the answer. So sometimes I can come in like this. Oh, wow, that's a tricky one. Because success means different thing to different people. But for me, I think a successful Scrum Master is the one that is always willing to learn what the team is doing. Although the Scrum Master is not a technical person, the Scrum Master should be willing to learn what the team is doing, to understand the product vision, to understand the product roadmap, to understand the release plan, and to understand the team, the quality different member bring to the team. If you can do that, you will become an effective Scrum Master. One other thing, notice I'm keeping my responses very short, not longer than 1 minute or so. All right, I'm going to give you a scenario where you can be able to kind of go through a bit of lengthy. These are going to be more of situational questions, but not on direct questions at this. Number 4, tell us about an issue you had with the stakeholder and how did you resolve it. Now, this is a very tricky question. And if you did not pre-plan on this question, or you have not been in a practical environment, it's going to be very difficult for you to figure out this. So the best way to answer this question is that you're listening to this question. You can write now a case study that you can use. All right, I'm going to give you a case study now, which you can use. The question say, tell me about an issue you had with a stakeholder and how you were able to resolve it. The first point is for you to understand who's a stakeholder, right? Who's a stakeholder? Most often people think stakeholders are people outside. Your manager can be your stakeholder, right? The tech lead from a different team can be a stakeholder. Stakeholder simply means those who are engaged in the project or those who have interest in the project. So I can say that, all right, now, one of the issue I had with a stakeholder, which was one of the top management when I joined the team, was the fact that they needed me to get the team aligned as soon as possible. So when I get into the company, it's like, okay, look, this is our main issue. We want you to get everyone on camera. We want you to get all the events in and start facilitating them. And we want you to get the velocity up. All right. So now, for me, the reason I said this was an issue because as a Scrum Master, our goal is not to tell the team what to do, but to seek the understanding of why certain things are not happening and to move them. So when I explain to the management or to the stakeholder that, oh, look, yeah, this is doable, but this is not immediate, and they were really not happy with the situation. I thought you were the expert. You should be able to do this. I said, yeah. And I took time to explain to the stakeholder why this is not immediate, and why if we push the team, we might get the wrong result, right? Because the goal is to build trust, right? And even get the stakeholder an example of one of the situations where I work with our collaborative Scrum Masters, and they implemented this, and team members will deliberately not respond to them because they feel like they are pushing them around. So my suggestion would be, give me the time to build trust with the team, gather information to why team members are not doing this, get their point of view. I will come back to you, share my feedback, then we'll resolve. Like, okay, I'll work with you. And that's how we're able to resolve the issue. All right. Now, one thing you also notice is that I did not use any sensitive issues, right? I use issues that are really real, and this show that I understand exactly how a Scrum Master should work. And this also show that I understand how to be able to influence my team to do the right thing, not to tell them or not to push them around. Okay. Number 5 says, tell me how you would facilitate a daily Scrum meeting. This question is very simple, but it's also very tricky, right? No, most people answer this question like, okay, we have asked the 3 questions, and then I get a feedback. Right. Now, a daily stand-up meeting, this is why I'm going to answer this question. Well, daily stand-up meeting is one of those simple meetings, but also very tricky, right? Because the goal, if you don't actually really pay attention to your daily stand-up, it might end up being, oh, yesterday I did this, today I did this, I have no impediment. And you're not getting a true reflection for your team. So what I do to ensure that my daily stand-up are effective is that, number 1, I pay very close attention to what the team members are working on, right? And sometimes I ask very specific questions. All right, James, yesterday you did tell us that you were working on this issue. Can you share any update into how you've been able to resolve it? Or Peter, yesterday, one of the points we discussed was that you are facilitating dependency with this team, which was supposed to unblock the story for us to pull ahead. Do we have some progress on that? All right. So you realize that when I go a bit more closer to understand what the team is doing, the case is different. Now, why is this also a very important way to tackle this? Many Scrum Masters don't pay attention on what their team is doing with an excuse that, oh, I'm not supposed to be technical. I'm not supposed to know what they do. Now, you're not supposed to be technical, but you're supposed to document what your team is doing, and you're supposed to have a close follow-up of that. That is what builds trust, right? If you definitely don't care and you only come like, okay, so what day, let's stand up. Or James, give me updates. This give me update. This give me update. You realize that what? It's always about update, and you don't really care about the work they're doing. So why it's important, the event is for update, but then the main purpose of the daily stand-up is also to build that rapport and to make the team feel, really understand that you're there for them. Okay. Question number 6, how would you deal with a conflict in a team? Right. Okay. I think I did a video about different type of conflict, which I think I'll share the link under this video. But then I'm just going to give you a strategy on how to deal with conflict. Now, always think about conflict like this. Conflict is not because we don't like each other. It's just because we disagree, right? We disagree because our values do not really match together. And as human, we're emotional. And when all of this when all of these differences come in place, it's like, okay, you don't want to accept a situation. So how I deal with conflict, number 1 is I build relationship. Now, you agree with me that if you have a conflict with your friend, it's a bit difficult for you to know how to resolve it because you understand that person very well. Versus you have a conflict with someone you've never met before, you don't even know how to reapproach it. So the first step to be a good conflict resolution as a Scrum Master, if that's what I say now, is for you to be able to build that rapport with the team, get to understand them, get to understand what they love. So in most of the cases, you realize that resolving conflict will be more of conversation, not really pulling people. No, the generic way to respond to this question is, I'm going to have a one-on-one with this person, have a one-on-one with this person, find out this or so. Yeah, that's a generic way. But then a more better way to address this would be, okay, I know conflict is something that's inevitable, but my approach is always like build rapport with the people, get to understand them, what they like and what they don't like. If in case conflict actually occur in a team, it's easier for you to approach them from that point of value and easier for you to launch communication, right? There's no conflict that can not be resolved if we seek to understand the rationale behind why people do things. And most importantly, when I resolve conflict, I try to not try to address, I try not to focus on the only on the root cause. The reason why I go a bit more deeper is to understand it, but I try to focus people on a common interest, why we are here and why we should keep our differences together and how we should be able to separate people from people and opinion, right? People and opinion. Conflict most often arises because we are looking at people and opinion all meshed together. All right, number 7, what are your strengths and weaknesses? Very important. Now, my strength is I pay very close detail to I pay very close detail. I pay very close attention to detail. Okay. This is a very tricky way. It's something they're looking for, but it's also something very tricky. Because if you say you pay attention to detail, and then all the time they asking question, you're missing out very important stuff. You're not paying attention to detail, right? So paying attention to detail simply means you're an active listener. You can listen very closely without getting distracted, right? Which is also something you should consider very, very serious in your interview. The interviewer doesn't like it when they ask you a question and like, oh, can you repeat it? It's not clear. Can you ask it another way? Try as much as possible to articulate and then to present it back. If you don't understand a question, most often it's always say, oh, if I understood you well, this is exactly what you mean, right? Then you take it from there, rather than say, oh, can you repeat it? I did not understand. Can you repeat it? So pay close attention to detail. And also I have good leadership and facilitation skills, which is one of the key of a successful Scrum Master. My weakness is that sometimes I pay so much close attention to detail that I think it might become an impediment. You know, when you really want to get things right and really, really right without any mistakes. And sometimes you might be too picky and people will not really like that. So I try always to balance that by knowing exactly where to pull the line. Right. Now, you see, on this point, when I spoke about my weakness, I spoke about it in such a way that it works to my advantage, right? So you cannot give a weakness point that doesn't work to your advantage. Number 8, what skills and attribute do you possess that will help you in your role as a Scrum Master? All right, so I can still pick up that question from my strength and weakness. I would say, hey, I love to collaborate. I love to work with people. I love to just chat and understand them and motivate them. It's a great skills in an environment where we need to really, really pay some close attention on how we are getting this work done. So in that case, what I do, in that case, just making sure that I work with people closely, making sure that I try to understand them from their point of view, making sure that while I'm doing that, I don't lose focus on the major goal, which is the value or the increment we need to deliver. It would help me be the best person you need to help accomplish this goal. All right. So number 9, right? Yeah, this is number 9. Describe a time when you experience conflict as part of a task or project and how you deal with it. Okay. Now, conflict as part of a task, this is a very specific question. It's not just talking about conflict, it's talking about conflict as part of a task. And most of these questions often come and you will not really be prepared in it, right? That is why you need to have like really, really good analytical skill and being that person that you can easily pick out something and tweak it around. Okay, so for instance, I wasn't prepared about this question, but this is how I'm going to approach it. All right. Time I have a question. Okay, I would say, okay, wow, thank you. That's a great question. All right, let me think about it. Time I have a conflict to deal with a back. Okay, so I quite remember. Yeah, I have a case study now. Now, the way I'm saying it, I'm bringing into reality, right? Remember, this is a trick for you. Becoming a Scrum Master, it's like you writing your own movie script, right? And then you acting it and selling the movie, and people are watching like, oh wow, I love this movie. But it's a whole conception, and you playing yourself in a reality. So at any point when you're in an interview, think about you being in that reality game, right? Reality game. Most often it's not gonna be so much straight jacketed, what do we say, so much straight as you expected, even if you've worked as Scrum Master for a long time. You cannot call a T at all point in T. Now, leadership is about how do you motivate someone to say, okay, I love the way this person motivated me, and I want to work with them, right? So it's very important. Whenever I sit on an interview, try to really, really master this. Sometimes you want to add more value to a question. You want to tweak it. You want to make it favor you. How do you play the ball to favor you? So I'm looking at a conflict in a tax. And the conflict I want to use right now in a tax is, oh, yeah, I remember uh we had some bugs that came in. Right. Let me use a technical debt. We have a technical debt that came in. A technical debt is rework, right? We have a technical debt that came in, and this technical debt was supposed to be handled by one of the developers, right? And then he said, okay, look, I'm going to take care of this tax, right? And then it was a back end ticket. So the other developer who worked on it wasn't there, was away that day. And when he came back the next day, he said, you know what, I want this task to be pushed to me. I'm the one that worked on it first, and I need to continue working on it. Right. But the other developer said, oh, I already done about 50% of the work. And it was kind of a conflict between them trying to look at how who is going to be the person to push up out that app, right? Oh, I started working on this. I should be the one working on this. The other was like, oh, but you were not there yesterday. I pick it up. I've already done 50% of the work. But then now, in that case, it was about who to take the credit, right? I did understand from the point of a Scrum Master, I understood that, okay, the person who did the work would take the more easier time, so they can easily close the ticket and take more credit, right, compared to the other guy. So he wanted that point. But when this falling back argument was happening, I kind of said, okay, team, can we handle this during the parking lot? And during the parking lot, I actually did make it clear to them that, okay, look, I do understand that this was your, you started working on this ticket and it went forward and came back. So and I also understand that, okay, Peter is also working on the ticket and Peter has done more work. Why I understand the balance. The goal for us is to ensure that the work is completed, not who did the work. But since you're also interested in learning from why it came back, and also that I'll let you to pair and work on the ticket so that you can get this out and both of you can take the credit. So, okay, that works. And I was able to solve the problem. All right, perfect. So that's just something I make up, right? That's not a reality that happened. That's something that I make up. And now this is just to tell you that, or when you're in an interview, they're trying to look at, there's some scenarios that they know that, okay, in reality, you're not come across it. But the reason that they're going to ask you questions around there is to see how you can respond to new situations and how you can be able to position yourself to handle new stuff. All right. So the next question says that, question number 10, tell me what you understand about the project life cycle. Okay. The project life cycle simply indicate the end-to-end process, how we start working on a piece of work onto how we complete it, right? So from where we start collecting the requirement, from where we plan how to work on the requirement, we build it, we test it, we deploy it, and we release it to the client. So that's the product or project life cycle. Number 11, have you ever been part of a project where the client was dissatisfied? Or alternatively, how will you handle a dissatisfied client? Okay. Now this is a question. I'll say, right, this is very important. I've not really been in such a scenario where I would say the client is dissatisfied, but I've had some really not good feedback during my spring review from stakeholder because they were expecting us to deliver more, but it did not really come through as they expected, right? So the feedback wasn't back. But most often I take this feedback as learning points. So I went back with my team and said, okay, look, the customer is not satisfied. It means we need to find a way on how to get this out right there, and also find a way to unblock every stuff that may be stopping us, not from delivering what we actually did say. Right. So this actually happened because quite a number of tickets were carried out. And this happened also because quite some team members got off during the spring unexpectedly. And we actually also did come up with a working agreement and some of the key rules on how we can take permission, and also kind of just being mindful. We are not saying that people should not take permission, but this just helping us to be able to stay more conscious about these certain rules on why you can take time off in an emergency. And if you're taking time off, try to collaborate with someone that can be able to fit in with you. And that actually really help us to be more conscious, right? And to be more focused. And in the subsequent spring, the stakeholder was really happy that he has seen some great improvement. We're now delivering exactly what we say we're going to deliver. All right. Number 12, how would you approach a project that had limited resources and limited team members? Okay, this is very important. Now, you might not want to say that you work in a project with limited team member. You can say, oh, this is a very important. So I'm going to give you an example, which often occur in most of the team I work with during the December period, right? During the December period, a lot of people are taking vacation, and most often, most of the client also want most of the work to be there. So we have limited resources at that particular point to close it. So what I have done as a culture during that period is to be able to ensure that team members start taking into consideration the possibility of putting in their time right ahead of time. And this helps us to educate the client about what we have available and what we have to deliver, right? So in that case, they are aware that things might not come through as needed because of a lack of resources or because of lack of this. But what we also pay attention to it is that we make sure that for the people who are available, we pay very close attention to building technical excellence so that anything that goes out to the client, they are not sending it back to us. So maximizing what is there and making sure that we create value from what is there. Right. Also, this question, you don't really have so much control over limited resources or limited budget or whatsoever. Scrum Master, you always need to work with what you have available to you. And if there is a need for extra, what you do is that you escalate it. All right. Number 13, you are in a meeting presenting an action plan to an important stakeholder. One of the stakeholders doesn't understand part of the presentation because it's too technical. What will you do? All right, this is a very important question, but unfortunately, I've not really been part of that. Number one, because I understand that when we deal with a stakeholder, we need to make things very clear and non-technical to them. And this is also one of the reasons why we write stories in Scrum Nature from the customer perspective. So I always, as well, talk with my developers to make sure that when they're presenting during demo, they should, as much as possible, use the customer language and not use their coding language. So this is always kind of play a balance and put me in a point where I don't get into that point. But in case this happens, the best way to do is to apologize to the customer and then try now to explain, oh, if I were to be in that shoe and the customer says they don't explain, I can request to book a meeting with them after the meeting to go through it step by step again. Or if I have the opportunity to just redirect my conversation at that particular point, I will gladly do that. Okay, number 14, why do you want to leave your current employment? Very important, very, very important question. So it's either your contract is ending. Never say, oh, I'm leaving my current employment because I was sacked, right? No. So always use this, your contract is ending, right? Or in some cases, you can say, you know what, I've been in my current environment for like 4 years now, and I think all my skills are facing out, so I'm looking for a more challenging environment. Right. Number 15, what's your style of communication as Scrum Master? As Scrum Master, your style of communication is persuasive and open communication. Right. As Scrum Master, I use powerful questions to seek to understand the rationale behind the action of my team rather than using authority. 15, well, that was 15 though. Number 16, as a Scrum Master, how would you motivate your team? This is very important. As Scrum Master, I believe as a leader, I try to lead by example. I'm always the first in the meeting. I'm most often always the first to reach out if I find out that something is going not going right. Always the first to check on my team members if I've not heard from them for a while. Always the first to kind of do follow up and say, hey, how are you doing today? Now that just help motivate them. And I also use appreciative comment in launching our meeting. I want to thank you so much for being the best team so ever. You're putting in a lot. I know sometimes it feels very hard, but I do understand that you're doing your best. And even after the meeting, I still do some meetup and appreciate team members that are already doing great. In that, my team members stay motivated, coordinated, and we stick as one big team to achieve our goal. Number 17, you're a Scrum Master on a difficult project. When it becomes clear that team members are underperforming, what will you do? All right, as Scrum Master, I know some projects might be very challenging, especially when requirements are not too clear. But what I often do is I'll use the power of retrospective, not just asking what went well, what didn't go well, and what our action step. But as I'm following the project very clearly, I take really clear documentation on some of these challenges that happen at the level of the team throughout the project. And in during my retrospective, sometimes I bring some of these challenges. Hey, team, I took some note during the project and I noticed XYZ. And I want us to have like really real conversation about it. What do you think about it? So in that way, we try to learn what is working well and what not it might not be working well. But by focusing specifically on some of these key observations, I also try to collect feedback from my team members. And during the forth and back brainstorming, I can be able to clearly share what is working, be able to clearly set a strategy that can help my team perform more better. Okay, number 18. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? This was a very tricky conversation. But then from an agile perspective, the way you will respond to this question is like, you know what, I love learning. I have a very very strong culture of learning. So when I get into any environment, my goal is to learn as fast as possible, as much as possible. And just by learning, this is what helped me to discover new opportunity. So in the next 5 years, I'm believing that I'm going to grow to the next point of my career that is going to open up so many opportunities for me. Right. So I'm not going to say next 5 years. I'm looking forward to be a manager. I'm looking forward to be an agile coach. No. Just like, okay, another opportunity will come. My bigger goal is to learn. And when I continuously learn, the opportunity will open up. Number 19, what are your salary expectations in your role as Scrum Master? Okay, this is very important. And this is why before you go to any interview, make sure that you do your homework, understand the average expected salary. If it's a company, big companies, they have a range on position. Do your research around there. if it's a contract position, do your market average around your community and understand what is the expected salary. So in most of the cases, you're like, okay, you know what? You might say, okay, in my current position, I currently make this. I'm looking for something more competitive and I'm open to negotiate, right? So if you really, really know your value, you can say, okay, I'm looking for 145,000 and above. Is that something that you can match or something we can negotiate around? Right. So never undersell yourself. Okay, number 20 says this is the end of the interview. Do you have any question for us? Okay, they're always gonna end that. This is the end of the interview. Do you have questions for us? Yeah. So what are some of the top questions you should be asking? What are some of the top questions you should be asking? Number one question which you should ask is, okay, thank you very much. Now, I want to learn more about the teams I'll be supporting. Do you have more information about the team I'll be supporting? Or if they say, oh yeah, this is a new team, but you can only ask this question if the interviewer did not take time to introduce this at the beginning, right? If not, just leave that out. Now you can also ask question about the agile culture of the company. Like, okay, well, I see that this is why you should do your assignment. I see that this company has been implementing agile for a while. What would you say are some of the key success story you've implemented and what is the main drive behind it, right? You can always ask a question like, okay, let's assume that I'm a good fit for this position. What are some of the expectations you have for me within my next 50, within my next 30 days, within my next 90 days, right? Yeah. What most often don't ask question about salaries at this point. Don't ask this question, especially if it's a full-time role, except you are being asked the expectation. Don't ask question about salary for now. Yeah, okay. All right, perfect. So we did cover 20 top questions, and I believe if you actually go through this forward and back, you should be able to kind of really, really close your next position without any challenge. But then if you've been doing this over and over again and you have not really closed that gap, it means you don't need question and answer, you need coaching, right? You can reach out to me with a number on the screen and we will gladly help you and just we have a very powerful community of practice where we kind of help you build your confidence by enabling you to practice how, not just how to answer questions, how to run the project. When you start doing that, your confidence build up and automatically your articulation power kind of just go up. Okay, you can also check on the description. There's quite a lot of information that you can get from our site to help you become the best Agile practitioner ever. All right, I'll see you in the next video.